Hey everybody, Vestmore here, and today we're taking another look at Fire Emblem Three Houses. At this point, I've put more hours than I care to count into the game, and honestly, there's still so much I want to talk to you guys about. One of the more requested videos you guys asked for, however, was a general class guide, so today that's what we're going to be doing. If you enjoyed this video, do be sure to leave a like, and be sure to let me know down in the comments if this helped you out. Now first things first, a quick little spoiler warning. I'm going to be making some references to some things that happen about midway or just over midway in the story. So if you don't want to be spoiled and you're not quite there yet, you should pretty much know what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you're not there yet, definitely proceed with caution. Anyway, first things first, one thing to keep in mind about picking classes for characters in this game is that honestly, it's super flexible. The suggestions I'm going to be giving are what I would call pretty much optimal and safe picks. However, there are certainly many ways to build every character in the game. You can pretty much make anybody anything and still make your way through the hardest difficulty of the game, which at the minute is hard. However, in the near future, I believe Nintendo is bringing us a patch that will bring us the lunatic difficulty, which is notoriously difficult, requiring a lot of min-maxing, etc. So if you want to essentially familiarize yourself with what each character is best at, then this is certainly the guide for you. But yeah, I figured it was just worth saying, as long as you're not making like, you know, a magic character a tank or vice versa, then you should be fine whatever you pick. But assuming you're having trouble, then don't worry, I've got you. So let's start off with the main character, Viola. Viola is pretty much a jack-of-all-trades character. They're very flexible and can pretty much be put into anything you want. However, I would put a precedent on maybe learning sword or magic classes because halfway through the story, Viola gets access to the Enlightened One class, which allows them to use both swords and magic quite effectively. Honestly, as long as you don't have some certain strategy in mind, this is probably Viola's best class. It's their unique one, so you're pretty much good to go if you just leave them in this class. But with that out of the way, let's move to the Black Eagles. Starting with Edogard, a similar thing happens. Partway through the story, she gets access to the Emperor class, which is a tanky, axe-wielding class. Now, there's certainly nothing wrong with this class, but I'm not a huge fan of tanks myself. They're slow, they can't move very far, and they usually get left behind. You certainly won't go wrong leaving her an Emperor, but I actually prefer Wyvern Lord because they're a flyer, so they can move around the battlefield really easily, and they use axes, so they're perfect for Edogard. Also, don't forget that you can actually dismount from your mount as well, meaning that things like bows that can usually take flyers down really easily shouldn't be a problem for you as long as you play smart. For Hubert, I think Dark Bishop is certainly the best class for him, although of course this requires the use of Dark Seals, which you get from the Death Knight. If like me you mess up with your Dark Seals and aren't able to get him to Dark Bishop, then Dark Knight is also a really good choice. It gives him mobility, it allows him to use lances, so things like Frozen Lance aren't completely useless, and overall is a pretty good class. Dorothea, in my opinion, should be either a dancer, which is of course the unique class that you get for doing the dancing competition. Dancers are super useful because they can give your powerful units an extra turn, and they also specialize in swords and magic, which is what Dorothea is really good at. If not Dancer, then I'd recommend Gremory, as this gives her double her magic usage, which is super useful, but more importantly, it doubles her Meteor, which is usually one-time use, allows you to use it 2 times, with Meteor of course being a near map-wide magic attack that is pretty devastating. As for Ferdinand, I would recommend either Paladin or Great Knight, depending on what you need. Paladin is the more offensive class, it's essentially the natural evolution of Cavalier. Whereas Great Knight is pretty good as essentially a tank that can actually move around the battlefield. For Bernadetta, she's pretty much made to be a bow knight, so I would highly recommend you make her one of those. They're really useful, super high mobility, a whopping 4 range on their bows, and the ability to move after firing, meaning they can get in, hit someone, and get out. For Caspar, I would recommend the War Master class, as he's pretty well built for it, and it increases his mobility quite a bit. For Petra, I'd recommend either Sword Master to get use out of the absolutely insane Astra combat art, or Assassin if you want her to be even faster. Finally, in the Black Eagle's house is Linhardt. I recommend Bishop as it plays to his strengths quite well as a healer, and it also allows for 2 times the use of his warp ability, which is really useful. Moving on to Blue Lions, we have Dimitri. Now, similar to Edogard and Claude, he has his own unique class called Great Lord. Once again, you can't really go wrong with this, it's a fine class in its own right. However, I do prefer Paladin, as again, gives you that mounted mobility, which is quite nice, and I feel overall it's a much more useful class. As for Dedu, he's built to be a tank, so honestly Fortress Knight would be quite good for him, but Fortress Knight is not the best class, so I would recommend, if you can, getting him into Great Knight by training up his riding skill, or you could also make him a War Master. Felix excels as a Sword Master, once again making use of the absolutely amazing Astra skill, or he could even become a Mortal Savant if you wanted him to have a little bit of magic. His magic stat isn't the worst, so it certainly works, and his budding talent also helps with this. For Mercedes, I would recommend either Bishop, which of course allows you to kind of push her into a full healing role, or Gremory, which allows her to be a little bit more offensively oriented. I would argue that Ash is Blue Lion's resident Bow Knight. Again, Bow Knight is just an absolutely insane class, so I would highly recommend it. It will give him good mobility and a huge sniping range. As for Annette, I would recommend either making her a Warlock if you want to be purely offensive, as she only has access to black magic, which of course Warlock excels at, or you can make her a Gremory to give her some off healing. Next up is Sylvain, and for him I would say Paladin is probably his best bet, as again, it allows him to get around the battlefield much easier. And finally, for Blue Lions, is Ingrid. Now, I would say she works best as either a Swordmaster or an Assassin. I lean more towards Swordmaster myself, but honestly, it's up to your personal preference. Next up is Golden Deer. Now, starting off with Claude, unlike the other lords, he's actually got a really nice unique class. Barbarossa essentially gives him the mobility of Wyvern Lord and allows him to really excel with his bow. He of course unlocks this automatically as you progress through the story. For Lorenz, I would recommend Dark Knight. He has both the magic and strength necessary to make use of Dark Knight's hybrid features. This of course gives him that sweet mobility, but also allows him to have the flexibility of being both magic and physical based. For Hilda, I would recommend either Great Knight if you need a defensive, mobile tank, which can be pretty potent at debuffing enemies via the use of her Seal Speed, or I would recommend Warrior if you want a more offensive-based class. For Raphael, I would recommend War Master, as it's a really good offensive class. It helps keep him mobile and helps make use of his huge strength stat. You could also make him a Fortress Knight, but again, I really don't feel like this game needs slow tanks like that. The maps are huge, but up to you. For Lysithea, I would recommend Gremory, as it allows her to double her incredibly potent dark magic skills, essentially making her even more of a magical powerhouse. For Ignatz, I would definitely recommend Bow Knight. Once again, Bow Knight is an absolutely nutty class. It increases their range by 2, giving them a range of 4, and allows them to get in and out after firing shots, so really potent. For Marianne, I would say Bishop if you want her to have a full healing role, or Gremory if you want her to have some more offensive capabilities. She does have some really nice wind spells. And as for Leonie, I would say make her either a Paladin if you need a mobile melee user, or a Bow Knight if you wanted a second one of those, which honestly is not a bad idea. And finally, we have the Church of Seiros NPCs. Starting with Manuela, honestly, she's fairly balanced. You could pretty much make her anything you wanted. If you're undecided, however, you certainly cannot go wrong with Gremory. It's an incredibly strong female-only class, and you definitely cannot get enough of them. If you prefer her to be a healer or even more utility-based, then Bishop is certainly the way to go, as it essentially gives her access to 2 warps, which is a very useful white magic spell. As for Hanneman, I would definitely recommend Warlock. He is one of the other characters that gets access to Meteor, which again is a super powerful, pretty much map-wide magical spell. But assuming you don't have any male magic users, then he could also do work as a Dark Bishop. For Setheth, I would recommend going Wyvern Lord. That allows him to keep his flying mobility and keeps his physical stats in top condition. As for Flayn, I would recommend making her your Dancer if you don't already have a better candidate such as Dorothea, or I'd make her a Gremory because you definitely cannot have enough of those. Cyril works well in pretty much any physical class, and I really mean it, like any physical class you can get him into, he will do fine. But if you wanted my pick, it would definitely be Wyvern Lord, as I find that to be one of the best. Catherine can definitely stay as a sword master, I would say it's her best class. And honestly, making use of Thunderbrand with Astra is hilarious. For Eloise, I would recommend Warmaster again. He's built fairly decently for it, but if you want, you can make him a Fortress Knight, assuming you need a slow-moving tank. I feel if you can get him there, Gilbert is best as a Great Knight, as it patches his movement problem, allowing him to actually traverse the map. And finally, much like the other bow users on this list, I would say Shamir works best as a Bow Knight. It's just such a good class, like trust me guys, it is absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's every character and the classes that are pretty much the best for them. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, classes can be super flexible, so don't be afraid to experiment, but for the most part, these are the classes you want, assuming you don't care about mastery skills and a couple of other things. However, if you do care about that in-depth stuff, then definitely check out the Masteries guide on our channel, as it gives you a full breakdown of essentially the best mastery skills and where you can get them. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and definitely let me know down in the comments what your thoughts. But for now, this is Vest, signing off.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget you can check out 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.